This is what I like to call hotel yoga because you can do it without any props. And so you can also do it at home and anywhere where you have wall space. But I'm going to show you how to do this whole routine that's wonderful for the low back, for the hips, and we're just going to do it in 15 minutes. So start with your bottom about a calf distance from the wall. So you can see how the model is a calf distance from the wall, so your legs are like at a 45-degree angle. If your chin is jutting in the air, you'll need to put a blanket underneath you so you even out that the model doesn't need anything underneath her head, but you might. And then once you have got the legs at a 45-degree angle, then you can go ahead and straighten the legs up the wall, heels about 2 inches apart. And then soften the inner thighs. So a lot of people's legs will spray out, toes outward. It's okay if the toes spray outward, but just make sure the inner thighs are soft. All right, so resting back in this supported wall Shavasana, the relaxation pose, just begin to notice your breath. Notice it as it comes in through your nose and down into your chest, and follow it on the exhale as well. Noticing the breath helps to ground us in the present moment, because the breath can only be in the now. The mind wanders around, but the breath is always, it can't live in the past or the future, the breath, like the mind does. So anytime you take a deep breath and ground in your breath, you're in the now. Now, when you first lay down, it might feel a little bit achy because your muscles are completely flattened on the floor now. You usually have this little curvature in your spine, but right now, laying here with legs up the wall, your muscles of your spine are going, and they're relaxing for the first time, getting oxygen and blood flow. So that might cause a little bit of achiness, but that should subside after a couple minutes of doing it. And just get a sense that your femur bones are pressing into your hip sockets. Now you're not doing that, you're just getting a sense of that. And then I want you to slowly draw your right knee into your chest and clasp your hands on your right knee. And you want to keep the knee pointing up towards your right ear. Soften the right foot. So you're not pulling the knee in. So if you took your hands off your knees, your knee wouldn't bounce back. And so you can see that she is not pulling her knee in. Her hands are just resting. Let your shoulders drop back towards the floor as you rest here. Soften that left inner thigh. Soften your right inner thigh. Now as that right shoulder, right hip relaxes, that knee is going to want to kind of slide out to the right. So make sure you draw it back in with your left fingers and keep it in alignment with your matching ear. And send the breath all the way down to the belly button. Just send the breath all the way down to the belly button. So here you can soften right elbow, right shoulder, but hang on firmly with those left fingers. So you want to be soft and relaxed, but not so relaxed that your hands start to fall off your knees. And just breathe here. Softening as many muscles in your body as you can while keeping the integrity of the pose. And then go ahead and release that leg up the wall. And back to 2 to 3 inches apart. Soften both inner thighs. And then notice, just with that couple of minute of alternate leg stretch, Pawan Muktasana, how that's changed the right side of your body. Right leg might feel longer, heavier, lighter, more expanded. Just noticing. And then slowly draw your left knee towards your chest. Clasp your hands on your left knee. Keep your knee in alignment with your matching ear. Soften the left foot. Soften the right inner thigh. Keep your knee in alignment with the matching ear, matching side of your chest. And if you soften left elbow, left shoulder, that helps to release the hip, but hang on firmly with your right fingers. Again, you're not pulling your knee in. You're really just stopping at the first point of tension. And then going back to your breath, breathing into your belly button. Just softening and sinking into alternate leg on the left side. So this first pose releases the base of the spine, which is the tailbone. And the tailbone's attached to the sacred sacrum. I talk a lot about the spine and the sacrum and the pelvic bone and all the bones in the body in this style of yoga. And so what we're doing now is we're releasing the sacrum, which ultimately releases the skull. Okay, and then a couple more breaths here into the left side, into the belly button. And then slowly release that leg back up to meet the other one. And pause for a moment in the center. The pause in between the pose is just as important as the pose itself. Continue to breathe into your belly button. Breath is important. Your breath is life force. Okay, now bend both knees again like we started. So knees and feet are hip distance apart and feet are halfway down the wall. And then place your right ankle bone on your left thigh, just the first place it lands. And then support the right thigh with the right fingers, keeping the right elbow on the floor. Make sure that right foot stays soft. Now look at your foot on the wall. I don't want you to move your toes, but take your heel and bring it to the left about 1/8 of an inch, just a little hair. That helps lock everything into place. And soften both inner thighs here. This is called thread the needle, or Janu Shirshasana, with legs up the wall. And if when you brought your right ankle bone in, your bottom lifted up off the floor, then you would have had to push yourself away from the wall more. Or alternately, you can walk your left foot, the foot that's on the wall, you can walk that up the wall. Take a couple of breaths here. Now here, I want you to be thinking about the right femur bone pressing into the right hip socket. And you can even visualize a weight on that right kneecap pressing in, and that helps to release the muscles that the bone is pressing into. So support equals release in awareness yoga. So right here, we've got the floor for support, we've got the wall for support, and we've got the hands supporting the knee. So there's full support in this pose. So ultimately you can relax and soften completely and just focus on your breath. Just breathing nice, long, smooth breaths. Feeling fully supported. And then slowly release that leg, the right leg, back to meet the other one. So both knees are bent, feet are flat on the wall, knees are hip distance apart. Your hands on the floor if you like, or on your belly, either way. And just notice the changes with that simple thread the needle. You might feel heavier on your right hip, more expanded, more present in your body on the right side. And then place your left ankle bone on the right thigh. The first place that the ankle bone lands is where it lands, so don't try to bring it too far down or too far up, just the first place it lands. And then left fingers come up to support the left thigh, keeping the left elbow on the floor. And not moving your toes on the wall, but taking your heel out to the right, just 1/8 of an inch, not too far. And breathe here. And again, your awareness is the left femur bone pressing into that left hip socket. You might feel a tingling or a coolness when you do that, and that's actually chi, that's blood flow. Some release of the fascia that happens in this style of yoga with the support. Couple more breaths here. Breathing into the belly button, getting a sense that that left femur bone's pressing in, maybe even visualizing a weight kind of pressing on that left knee. You don't want to do it yourself. You can't really do it yourself. But thinking about it will do it itself. And then slowly release that leg to meet the other one. And you can straighten both legs up the wall back into your supported wall, Shavasana, relaxation position, softening both inner thighs and just noticing how you feel. Trying your best not to wiggle or stretch too much, just because yoga ultimately is kind of spontaneously moving the body to be more comfortable. But when we're releasing vulnerable muscles that attach to the spine, we kind of want to keep still until we do the closing relaxation to help integrate the new changes. So when you're laying here, stretching is not something you want to do, like taking your arms over your head and doing a big body stretch is not something you want to do in this position. At least not yet. Okay, draw your knees into your chest, clasp your hands on your knees, take a couple of breaths in Supta Garbhasana. Now clasp your fingers together if you can. This is upward facing child's pose. It's great for the low back. You want to keep the sacrum, which is the lowest part of the low back. You want to keep that on the floor. Now, if you can't clasp your hands on your knees, alternately, you can clasp your pants on the sides of your knees, or you could use a bathrobe or a strap to clasp. All of those will work. Or grab on behind your knees, that's fine too. Great. And then curl up in the fetal position on the right side, moving the right arm down to your knees, and then bring your feet away from you. And then place your left fingers in your waistband, like underneath your shirt in your waistband. And you want to just keep the wrist glued to the knees. That actually releases something deep in the solar plexus. It also keeps the low back safe. So see how the knees are right in the crook of the wrist? That's the most important thing here. If the knees are too low, it can strain the low back. If the knees are too high up towards the right elbow, it doesn't hurt anything, just doesn't get quite the release. You want your tilt your head either upward or towards your bent knees. It's more of a twist in your torso, so a little more to the right. Yeah. And breathe here. Now here you can do what's called a head roll. And this is profoundly relaxing. It's kind of like a craniosacral move. So ever so slowly now, I want you to begin to rotate your head. So almost so slowly that if I should look over at you, I shouldn't be able to see your head moving. Doesn't matter which way you go first. Have the intention of keeping your chin tucked in, but not so that it feels tension, just so that your chin's not popping up. And it's almost like you have a magnet on one shoulder, slowly drawing your ear to one shoulder. So you're moving microscopically slowly, one hair on your head at a time. This is a profoundly relaxing pose. Affects the cerebral spinal fluid, which bathes your brain. So it's almost lulling and softening and relaxing your nervous system. And then you don't want to push through anything. Once you've gotten sort of close to the ear to one side, then you can begin to do it on the other side, towards the other side. Again, super, super slow. It's almost like you're not even using any neck muscles, like you're willing your head to move. And you can even track the movement down your back, how far down your neck and your back is the muscle that begins to rotate that head. Not holding any tension in any parts of your body, so it's almost you can feel your muscles and your skin melting around your spine in this position. And then slowly bringing your head back to center wherever you're at. And slowly rotating back onto your back, drawing your knees into your chest. Just nice and slow. You can bring one knee at a time or both, whatever works for you. Clasp your fingers on your knees in the center or behind your knees, whatever works for you. Soften both heels. Let your shoulders drop back. You might feel a little lopsided here. Breathe into your belly button. And then slowly curl up on the other side in the fetal position on the left side and straighten your left arm down towards your knees. And then your right fingers go in your waistband, palms face down. So do make sure you get your fingers all the way under your waistband, because that's the support for your right shoulder. And if your top knee floats off, you want to let your right hip sink back into the pose. And almost, again, it's almost like cookie dough being put in the oven. You're just melting in the floor. You've got support on the floor completely here. Now, everybody's body looks different in this pose. If your body looks different, that's completely fine. Yoga is about acceptance of the way your body is in this moment. For instance, if your knees are floating off, if the top knee, there's a space between the top knee and the bottom knee, you can just put a pillow or a blanket in between your knees, no problem. If your low back is sore at all here, just put a pillow behind your back in this position. And then you can begin the head roll in the rotation on this side. Again, so slowly that I can't see you moving if I happen to glance over. And it's like you've got a magnet on one shoulder and one ear, and it's slowly drawing over. And don't forget to breathe. Willing that head to move nice and slow. Soften your inner and outer thighs. Soften your belly. Soften your right shoulder. With every exhale, feel your right side sinking more. You're not pushing, not trying. All you're doing is allowing and letting go. Just a couple more breaths here. And if you're rotating your head, that's great. If you don't want to rotate your head, that's fine too. And then from wherever you're at, you can bring your head back to center. And then bring your legs back up the wall. You're going to go back up the wall to finish the hotel yoga, the no props yoga. Straighten your legs all the way up the wall. Hands on the ground, palms face up, or hands on your belly, either way. Whatever you like, soften your inner thighs. And this is this resting pose, the relaxation pose. And you don't want to skip this part because it's wonderful to integrate all the new changes that we just made in the body. So lay here for several minutes. If your hamstrings are sore here, if you've got hypermobility, you probably will need to move further away from the wall, or it might not be an appropriate position for you. You can do hotel yoga, legs up the wall, I call it. Also, you can do it for 15 minutes, such as we did today, or you can do the routine in 45 minutes and just slow down and stay in each pose longer.